Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul Channel, a place for seekers to gain clarity, raise consciousness, normalize spirituality, and change the world. I'm so excited for today's episode because I have the absolute pleasure and delight of bringing you Kris Ashley. She has inspired thousands of people by who she is as a being, and that has been expressed through her coaching, her yoga practice, her yoga studio, where she brings people together. And now she's going to share with us the essence of wisdom informing her book. And I'm so excited to hear more. So, Kris, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Teresa. And thank you so much, not only for a beautiful introduction to me, but I just love your introduction to your show in general. If I wasn't a guest, that would be a show that I would seek out myself to listen to.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. When I read the title of your book and looked at your bio and learned all about you, I thought, oh no, she and I, we're going to vibe. This is going to be a great episode. We're going to have so much fun.
Yeah.
So the book is called Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality, which, wow, so powerful. And what I'd like to do is take the listeners and the viewers on your journey. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to for this last lifetime or so.
Yeah. I love that. And I can tell you other lifetimes too, because I've gotten a bunch of past life regression hypnosis. But yeah, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to share my story. So, my story starts probably like a lot of your guest stories start with my own trauma, right? Because oftentimes us people who go into healing and coaching, when we want to help others, we've gone through it ourselves, right? So my story is that when I was 12 years old, I was sexually abused by a family member for 4 years. And I had this really big, tight-knit, extended Italian family. And when they found out what happened to me, many of them disowned me. I mean, I was getting letters and calls from people telling me I wasn't their family anymore and they didn't love me anymore. And it left me with all of these, what I call low vibration emotions, like guilt and anger and shame, that as a young adolescent, I didn't know how to cope with. Most adults don't know how to cope with those types of emotions. And so it put me in a really dark place. I was getting in trouble in school. I was doing drugs. I was self harming. And my world changed when someone handed me a book. And what this book did is it showed me that there were other ways of thinking and being and learning about the world other than what we're taught in school and the universe. And I remember just feeling like a sleeper agent, right? Like something inside of me just woke up as I was turning those pages. And when I finished that book, I started reaching for more. And I started devouring every metaphysical, spiritual, new age, personal development book I could get my hands on. I began to go to workshops and retreats. I found teachers to study under. And my life just did this 180. I was manifesting things. Everything was just falling into place. And my confidence grew. I thought I was just unlocking these secrets of the universe, but I was really doing the hard inner work, right? But the other part of my story is that as I was changing my mind and started to get better, my mother started to get worse because her family had been ripped down the seams, and she didn't have all of these teachers and this inner work, right? She wasn't doing any of that. And it started to manifest as physical illness for her. She developed some very serious illnesses like cancer and hepatitis, but also things that doctors couldn't even explain. And so they did what they do, right? They gave her pills, and then they gave her pills for the side effects of those pills. And, she ended up staying in bed for all but a few hours of daylight. She was nodding off at the dinner table. She would forget conversations we had just hours prior. And that lasted almost 15 years. So I had this compounded guilt that I had destroyed my family and broken my mother. But I believe, probably like you do, that everything happens for a reason. Not to make that assumption, but like you said, we're vibing. And in the end, I realized my mother was my biggest teacher, because for every step that she took deeper into illness and depression and victimization, I climbed in the other direction out of that dark tunnel. because I was seeing firsthand, right in front of my eyes, what happens to a human body and spirit when they choose that path, because everything's a choice. And then I was seeing what was happening to my own body and spirit as I was changing my mind and choosing another one. And so I made a promise to myself, and it's a promise I kept to this day, that I would do everything I could to heal physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and I would always prioritize my health. And that was over 2 decades ago that that journey started. And since then, I decided I wanted to give back because I've created the life of my dreams. I wanted to help others. So I took a coaching program with Mary Morrissey. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's wonderful. And I took the best parts of what I learned from Mary, the best parts that I had learned over those 20 years of studying under other teachers and self-study and my own experience, and created my own program. I wrote my book, Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality. It's right behind me. And yeah, the rest is history. And now I get to have these amazing conversations with people like you.
Well, and you get to share your stories so that
Yeah.
other people can hear hope
Yeah.
for themselves. And that's what it's all about, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
if even one person hears this and it helps them, then it's all worth it, right? And
Yeah.
I love that that was your first response, because so often when I'm on these shows, and they often start with my story, the person automatically goes, "I'm so sorry that happened to you." And it's like, I'm not. I've since forgiven all those people, but it's like that was the catalyst to my spiritual awakening. That's what had to happen to force me into growth and to make me the person I am today. So
Yeah.
yeah, again, everything happens for a reason.
It does. And I think that, and I know I can feel it in everything that you're saying. You live this principle, which is something that I share with everyone I coach and work with. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
Yes.
So, what are you going to do with all of the gifts and opportunities that are laid at your feet? Are you going to bemoan them and see yourself as a victim? Or are you going to use them as information, a catalyst for opportunities?
Exactly, exactly. And that's what I'm out there telling people as well. And especially in this day and age when it almost feels trendy to be a victim, I think it's so important to get that message across, because everything you go through gives you the opportunity to learn and grow and heal, right? Like every adversity, every challenge, there's that hidden Easter egg in it. And once you find it, you level up. And life really can be a game like that. It really can be fun like that. We take it so seriously, but it can be really, you can hold it really lightly.
Yes. And I think holding it lightly is where the joy and the love and the play come in. And when you're manifesting, that's the juice, right? That's
Yeah.
what feeds into it.
Yeah, and then the cool part is that once you're on that frequency of joy and love and play, you're attracting more of that into your life.
Yeah.
So it's just a
Yeah.
win-win. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
let's see if we can dig in a little bit, because you have so much wisdom to share, and I want to really take advantage of this opportunity. What were some of the narratives that you used, and what were some of the tools that you used to overcome the fear and the self-deprecation and kind of those thoughts that I same thing, really traumatic upbringing, childhood, blah, 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 overcome it. What were some of the tools you used to get you through that? We've heard of books, we've heard of classes, but what are standouts for you that our audience would benefit from?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I don't know that it was any one thing, which I know you said tools. I think one of the most important things when you're dealing with trauma or just debilitating emotional stress is you have to go through it to release it, right? To feel it, to feel your repressed emotions. And I remember so long ago reading David R. Hawkins' book, Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender. And it's a phenomenal book. It's all about how, we hold on to repressed emotions. He says this thing that's like, you know, outside events don't make you angry, you're already angry, and they give you this permission to unleash it onto the world. Like people with repressed emotions are like pressure cookers just waiting to vent them onto the world. And I love that book. It's a phenomenal book. I recommend it. But I was left after that book being like, okay, I understand this idea that you have to release your repressed emotions, but how do you do that? Right? It
Right.
didn't give me the how. And I had to kind of explore that with all of these teachers. One thing, one exercise that really, really was powerful for me is Osho's dynamic meditation. And I know Osho's a controversial figure, and hopefully we can separate anything that his followers might have done from the wisdom that he gives the world. But what it is, and there's so many other places you can find these things, is it's breathing exercises that trigger this emotional release where it's this catharsis, right? It's primal screaming, it's just getting all of that out. And the cool thing is, as you start to release repressed emotions, they're really layered. So oftentimes, like really intense anger is actually covering up really intense heartache, right? Like really deep sadness. And once you allow yourself to feel that anger, it often morphs into that sadness. And it doesn't take long. And I've felt it in real time. I've had that moment where I'm like screaming and pounding the floor and swearing. And then all of a sudden it's just like a shift happens and I'm just sobbing. And it's such a powerful moment where you're like, wow, I released that top layer and now I'm digging deeper. So things like that have helped a lot. And different meditations have also really, really helped me. Um, different journaling exercises, and also just learning, just gaining knowledge and understanding that there's other ways to look at things. And that's really what my book is about. When you shift your perspective, whole new pathways open up before you.
Yeah, I love that. I agree 100%. And I want to highlight a couple of things that you said because I think they're so powerful and important for our audience to hear and receive. Give yourself permission to go through all of the emotions. Don't stop and pitch a tent and hang out in an emotion for a while, but keep moving. That's so wise because when you get stuck, that's where you live your life from,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
s- and so I love that you are encouraging people. You can do this. You can move through the layers. There may be a couple, but you can do it. It's all within you. Um, and the other point that I want to highlight is find the tool that speaks to you.
Mm.
There's so much information out there, and when we allow ourselves to open ourselves to alternative perspectives, the information will show up, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think that's so important. And sometimes it's going to be a different tool than worked for you yesterday, right? And I think one thing that's really worked for me and for a lot of other people that I've worked with is physical modalities can be really powerful, because if you can
Mm.
exhaust your body and mind, then the emotions will just flow through. Right. So things like my yoga practice has been really powerful. And I think that's why dynamic meditation speaks to me, because it's so physical.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love what you said. Different modalities, try them all. Things will speak to you, things will work for you, and then different things will work for you at different points in your life. And that's great too.
Yep. I agree. And yoga is an excellent an excellent tool. Running for some people. I love weight training. So find the physical exercise that's the catalyst for you and lean into it. Brilliant. Brilliant. So you mentioned in your bio a spiritual awakening in 2002. Can you share a little bit about that?
That was the story that I shared.
Okay.
I call that my spiritual awakening when I first read that book. And the book was The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life by Drunvalo Melchizedek. I don't know if you've have you heard of that?
Yes, I love Melchizedek. He's amazing. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
that's awesome. There's so few people that I speak to that, and as soon as you said it, your face lit up. So I knew. That's really cool. How did you discover him? I mean, I guess now he's on Gaia, so maybe people are finding him out, but
Yeah. So I ran into a friend who was studying under him.
Yeah.
And she took me through several guided meditations, the Melchizedek method, and it was jaw-dropping for me. It it normalized something I'd been living my whole life. You know,
That's
all these different worlds, all these different experiences, these different beings, being able to hear, see, know, and feel. It normalized it for me and opened the door for a lot of opportunities. That's awesome. I love that.
that's super cool. Yeah, and you know what I loved about his book too, and I tried to do this with my book, is it planted so many seeds. It was like,
Mhm.
here's this thing, and if you want to read more about it, like here's the author. Like it introduced me to Zachariah Sitchin, and I know he's like all over TikTok. People are talking about like in ancient astronaut theory, but this was when I discovered it 2 decades ago. No one was talking about it, right? And I discovered Greg Braden through there, and you know, all of these different work, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. So it was a really cool first book because it just gave me so many different directions to go. And I went all of them.
Yep. Good for you. That's so
That's
beautiful. I
really
love
cool
that.
that you've, yeah, I get really excited when other people have heard about him because, like I said, not many people have.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree too that we're seeing on all the platforms, whether it's Spotify or iTunes or Amazon Radio or all the different Gaia, Om, um, all of these people are popping up. All this information is popping up. And it's like it's expanding so rapidly. Are you finding the same thing?
Oh yeah. And I've felt it for a long time now, like at least a decade. It feels like things are rapidly speeding up and there's this awakening happening, right?
Yeah.
This consciousness rising in the planet. But you know, at the same time, there's also a lot of work to still be done for us light workers, right? There's,
Yeah.
like I said, there's this mentality there where it's become trendy to be a victim and people are really sucked into that. And I think that teaching this spirituality is so important right now, like more than ever, because it's like we're on that cusp. We're just kind of teetering on this like new earth being formed.
I agree. So that brings us to the juice. Tell us about your book. Tell us why you wrote it and give us some insights into the wisdom shared.
Yeah. So, you know, I shared this story about my mother and, you know, I wrote the book because for all the reasons, right? I had to write a book. I didn't want to write a book. I had to write. It was in me, right? It just had to get out. And you know, it was also cathartic. And as a teacher, you learn you learn those lessons so much deeper when you have to teach them yourself, right? When you have to make them accessible for other people and break it down. And I wanted to help other people, like all those reasons. But my secret reason for writing the book is, you know, like I mentioned, my mom became really sick, and I had a lot of guilt issues around that for a long time. I felt like I was responsible, and so I I took it upon myself to try to heal her, which, by the way, you can't do. You can't heal another person, and like especially one that doesn't want to be healed, right? You can't change another person. Um, so I live in California and she lives in Chicago, and I'm a book nerd. I still read like a book a week, and I would read some books sometimes that I would really think would help her, and not even like spiritual books, like Mind Body Prescription by Johnny Sarnos is a great one, right? It's about how how your emotions are tied to, or your physical pain is tied to your emotions. And I would send them to her, right? And to me, that was an act of love, right? Like, here's this thing I think can really help you. I'm going to send it to you. She didn't receive it that way. To her,
Mhm.
she would get really upset. She would get really insulted. She would think that I was trying to force my opinions on her. She would think that I was trying to say that I know everything and she doesn't know anything. And she wouldn't read any of them. And she would just get really angry at me. And I was like, well, I know if I write a book, she's going to read it. So part of the reason I wrote it was for her, and it's dedicated to her, and she has read it twice and she's implemented a lot of the things, and I think it really has made a big impact for her, which is really cool. Um So that's why I wrote it. And then to answer the other part of your question, uh, it talks a lot about, belief systems and how, again, changing our perspective can completely change the reality we see around us. It teaches people how to use the law of attraction and manifest things, but it also teaches people how to remove the things that are blocking their manifesting, which I think is equally as important. So we've already talked about releasing repressed emotions. Other things is, reprogramming your subconscious mind, forgiving people, right? Because when we hold on to grudges, that's like holding on to poison. And for subconscious mind, our opinions are so often formed by the adults we grew up around, cultural conditioning, the teacher that says you're a good singer, the other one that says you suck at math, like all these things, right? Especially children under 7 are just in theta mode. They're just downloading information. So it's completely cleaning out all of that so that you can manifest. It kind of like clears all the debris out of the road. So that was a long-winded answer. Hopefully I answered it.
So you did, and more. So what I'm hearing is that, first of all, I think the gift of the book to your mom, sharing the essence of your wisdom and your journey with her, is incredibly beautiful. And I want to honor that because, influence is one of our greatest opportunities. And when we do it authentically from the heart, then it can be received. And I get it. It's a beautiful journey.
Thank you.
And your mom reading it twice, she's just going to get the vibrations. Even if she doesn't pick up every single nugget, the vibrations are going to be beneficial for her. So that's exciting.
You just gave me goosebumps, like actual goosebumps. Thank you for
Yeah.
saying that. That's a beautiful thought. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome. So the point you just made of how we pick up all of these perceptions as we're growing up and carry them with us is like everybody hear that, because we don't ever stop evolving, do we? And like your book giving us tools and information to navigate and, what would you call it, diffuse those instances,
Yeah.
is something you would go back to over and over and over again, because we don't ever stop clearing past perceptions. Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. And there's a little teaching story I like to use when I talk about belief systems in this way. So this is a true story. So I was cleaning out a closet in my aunt's room with my cousin's daughter, who was like 10 at the time. And way back in the corner of the closet, we found a floppy disk. Remember those? So,
Wow.
right. So people of a certain age would look at that and say like, oh, that's a floppy disk. Like, wow, right? Like that's still around. What a relic. But to my cousin's daughter, she thought it was a toy because it was this plastic thing and it was a 3D object of something she's seen in the 2D. And that's the save icon on her computer. And, she asked me what it is. She's like, is this a toy? And we had this conversation. Now, if she wasn't in the room, I'd say, oh, that's a floppy disk. That's wild that my aunt still has that. Like, when's the last time this was cleaned out? If I wasn't in the room, she'd say, oh, it's a toy. So the question becomes, what is the object, right? Is it a floppy disk or is it a toy? And then before you answer that, what about civilizations who have never even seen a computer before, right? Like what might they think it is other than a toy or disk? So the answer to this philosophical question is it's none of the above, right? It's neutral. We place meaning on it based on our past experience with the object or with something like it. So and you can assign this to everything, to information, to things people say and do, to events, to objects, because information is neutral, but your response to it is not, right? The way that you process that information is not. That's why eyewitness testimonies are so unreliable. Like 10 different people can witness the same event and then recall it from 10 different points of view. And it all depends on our lens that we go through, right? We talk about rose-colored glasses, like it's you literally put on glasses based on everything you've gone through in the past, like you were saying. And our inner world really does create our outer world. So if you're thinking from a place of ease and safety and abundance, you're going to have a very different perspective than if you're coming from a place of fear and doubt and worry and anxiety, right? Based on your past experiences. So, the problem is most people focus more on what's holding them back, and they focus on the fear and doubt and worries, right, in their life. But if we can shift things like we were talking about earlier and see the growth potential or the lesson, or just see things from another person's point of view, then it really radically does change our life.
It does. And I really want everyone to hear that, because what Kris just said is how to change your life. And that's why her book is so essential for individual evolution, and not just once, but over. We don't stop until we're dead. We continue to evolve and grow and learn. And as we said before, influence, right? Who we are being vibes into the world. We influence from that place without even opening our mouth. So, and let's face it, who doesn't want an amazing life? Who doesn't want fun and abundance and play, doing something you love, being with people that lift you up, that you lift up? I mean, ultimately, that's what we're all desiring.
Totally. But sometimes people let their trauma or their illness or the things they've gone through become their identity, right?
They do. Yeah.
And some people enjoy, not consciously, but some people get a lot out of staying sick, and I witnessed it with my mom, right? Um, or out of being a victim, because when you're a victim, there's perceived payoffs, right? You get pity. You get to not, if you blame others, you get to avoid feeling guilty and stay in your comfort zone of staying small. You know, you get to be excused from doing things you don't want to do, like work or school or having hard conversations, right? But what you don't get to do is step into your own power and heal,
Yeah.
right?
That's the truth.
Yeah.
It's so limiting. It's there's the paradigm, right? It's sad. You don't want to witness it. You wish different for others. And yet this is a free will plane, and you have to honor the choices they make, and respond just like you did, by providing support in the ways that you can, for them to shift and move and change. And it starts with us. So you're having that lived experience is providing the greatest influence. And that's about all we can do, don't you think?
Yeah, and what you said is so, so important. Like never underestimate the power of planting seeds, right? And that's the way that you change the world. That's the way you heal a sick society. So many people are out there trying to like fight for change, but it's like starting a war to fight for peace. It doesn't work, right? The
Yeah.
way to change the outer world is to change your inner world. And the way to influence someone in your life, or just people you're reaching is to level up yourself, and then you become this beacon for others. And then, they might say like, hey, Teresa's looking like really happy or really at peace these days. Like, what's she doing? Maybe I'm going to tune in and start to pay attention, right? And then they can rise and meet you at your level. And you can offer them a helping hand up, but like you can't force anyone to change. And that was, like I said,
Yeah.
that was a really big lesson that I had to learn.
Yeah, free will. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that I'm going to draw a thread through some of what we've talked about. The individual journey is essential. Self-responsibility is where everything begins. Would you agree?
Yeah. Really well said.
Yeah. And from that place, you can influence and have the life that you desire as opposed to one by default, right? And then and then life starts to open up and offer opportunities for you to be in your authentic place and express and grow. Like you've grown your yoga studio, you have your book, you have your coaching. So the universe responds with opportunities, containers for you to evolve and share the wisdom.
Yeah, totally well said. And I actually just sold my yoga studio last week.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, thank
Wow.
you. So again, opportunity from the universe.
Yep. I wonder. So nature abhors the void, right? You've created this big void by letting go of the studio. That'll be so interesting to see what fills it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting. So many people fear change. I freaking love it. It's like an adventure, right? Like it feels so good to have a fresh start and shed things that aren't resonating anymore, or just shake things up a little bit.
Yeah. And that takes courage. I want to acknowledge that because letting go of something that you birthed and grew is is can be a challenge.
Totally. I was gonna just close it and then right at the right time, just because I was telling you, I just had a baby and I'm focusing more on the coaching and my podcast and doing a lot of speaking opportunities, and like that's kind of where my attention's been lately. And right around the time I was going to close it, someone approached me and asked if they could buy it. So I said, hell yeah.
Thank you very much, universe.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the birth of your baby boy. That is a whole adventure in itself, and it's miraculous and amazing. And with the
Oh,
little baby alphas being born now, woo, there's some powerful babies.
the baby alphas, talk to me about that. What is that?
So every generation has their name.
Oh, it's the generation. Okay.
Yep, yep. And these ones are stand up for what's right. They're very clear, they're intuitive, they're tapped into their intuition, and it's normal and natural for them. They are strong and fierce, powerful spiritual warriors is how I look at it. I'm a huge TikTok fan. I just love TikTok. And there's a lot of information there about these little beings and the change that they're bringing into the world from elementary school. Like Greta Thunberg from who was an advocate for climate change and taking care of our planet. Those are the types of beings that are being born now. And
So when does Gen Z end and Alpha start? What's the cutoff there?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't have an exact date. We'll have to take a look.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, it'll be fun to see what this new generation brings for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it really is a miracle. Like it trips me out. So it was a 7-year journey, trying to get pregnant, which I kept saying like the right soul is waiting to enter, right? But we ended up doing IVF and it just blew my mind. Like they put a little cluster of cells in me and this human grew and this soul entered this body and now he's here on earth. And it's it's wild. Like just to think about it, it's just is so wild. It's so cool.
Well, I have a very strong sense. I'm getting a big yes from my guides that you were meant to be a mom. I'm gonna cry.
You're gonna make
That
me
you
cry.
have you have so many gifts to give him, and the ability for him to live fully out loud and unencumbered
Hmm.
is going to be a tremendous gift to the planet. So thank you.
You're gonna make like again, I'm in goosebumps and
Yeah.
tearing up. So thank you. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Just the amount of love, right? Everyone says that. They're like, you're gonna love him more than anything. And it's like you don't really know until it happens. And you're like, wow, like
And
this is unconditional love, right? That's what that is. It's pretty amazing.
yeah,
So it's good to hear he's gonna do good things for the planet.
yeah, he will. He will. He's your son. How could he do any less?
Thank
You're welcome. So let's start wrapping things up. What do you want to share that you haven't already expressed? And I know that's always a tough question to answer when you're put on the spot, but I want to make sure that everyone feels and hears and knows what you have to offer, whether it's through your coaching, definitely through the book. So it's on Amazon, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, ebook, audiobook, paperback.
Perfect.
Yeah, usually at that point when people ask me that question, I talk about how humanity is all connected and we're all reflections of each other. And um, but for some reason, I'm feeling like we need to talk about forgiveness a little bit, and I just feel like I need to say that to your audience for some reason. Maybe someone's
Mhm.
listening that needs to hear it. Um, no one has so much power over you that they can control your peace of mind and happiness, right? And peace of mind and happiness can't be found in blaming others or outside events for your suffering. People can try. They can try and take away your peace of mind and happiness. They can say mean things. They can troll you on the internet. They can try to criticize you or humiliate you or shame you. They can even try to physically hurt you. But unless you allow them to take away your peace of mind and happiness, they can't. And, it's a million people say it. I'll say it again. Forgiveness isn't for you or for the other person, it's for you, right? There's that powerful Buddhist quote, holding on to a hot coal and throwing it at someone else is like holding on to anger and is like holding on to anger is like holding on to a hot coal and throwing it at someone else, right? Like you're the one that's going to get burned. And holding on to all of that is poison. So just like we want to release the repressed emotions, forgiveness is so powerful and it's choice. You can choose to not place blame on someone else. You can choose to let things go. And here's the cool part. There's a paradox. If you choose to not place blame on someone in the first place, there's nothing even left to forgive, right? All there
Right.
is to do is just let it go and move on with your life. And that's not excusing anyone's behaviors, but it's allowing you to get rid of that anger, shame, or guilt, because self-forgiveness is important too, or whatever it is you're holding on to. So again, you can level up and grow. And for some reason, I feel like someone needed to hear that. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to say it.
Well, I think we all do. Forgiveness is the foundation for healing, don't you think?
Yep. Yep. So
Yeah,
I've never heard anyone say that, but yes, absolutely. It
yeah.
totally is.
And and I always think of the things that people have done to me as their actions, not mine. Why would I carry somebody else's actions?
Yeah.
That's just not smart,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's a very enlightened way of looking at things because it's true. What people do and say has so much more, it says so much more about who they are as people than who you are. And it's their stuff. So can I just share one really quick teaching story that I love that just
Please
kind
do.
of sums up exactly what you said? Because I love teaching stories. So imagine you're sitting in your house and you hear this meowing outside. And you go outside and like way off in the corner of your yard, you see this scrawny black and white cat. And you're like, I love kitties. I'm going to go touch the kitty. And you go over and it hisses at you and it arches its back and it swats at you. Now, immediately you're going to think, that's a mean kitty. That's an evil kitty. Or like the cat's kind of an asshole. And here's the thing, if you stay and you allow yourself to really see that cat, you might notice its leg is bleeding. And so you start to go, okay, this animal's hurt. And then if you keep seeing that cat, you might notice 4 tiny black and white kittens are behind it with their eyes still closed. And suddenly your perspective shifts, right, to one of compassion, concern, empathy. And you can do the same thing for the people in your life, because when people lash out at you in any kind of way, they are coming from a place of their own fear and their own pain. And that's it. You know, most people, the majority of people are not going around in the world trying to create chaos and havoc in your life. They are so concerned with how things are affecting them. And they're not trying to hurt you, but you're taking it so personally because all you care about is how it affects you, right? Like I love the 4 Agreements, right? That's one of the best books ever. And it's like, don't take things personally, right? No one's doing stuff because of you. There's this poem I love called On the Day You Read This by Lane Thomas. There's this really cool line in it that says, no one's really judging you when you walk into a room, and all they really want to know is if you're judging them. And it's so true, right? And once you realize it, like that's how you start to get courage, when you start to realize this, that everyone else is just out there in their own head.
Yep. Trying to protect themselves, stay safe.
Yeah.
And yet when you walk into a room and you're filled with love and your arms are wide open, watch what happens. Watch the transformation. It's miraculous. And that's how we stop wars.
Exactly. Rather than trying to fight for peace, like I was saying, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That's how you stop wars inside of yourself, with other people, on a planetary level. Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. Oh, I love that. Kris, thank you so much. I know I wanted to hear that, even though I didn't know I did. And I'm sure there's so many in the audience who feel the same way. So please share where they can find you, what you're doing. Repeat the information about the book just in case others didn't pick it up, but help us get people into your world.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. So the book is called Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality. Again, it's over my shoulder. And it's available everywhere you get your books, in audiobook, ebook, and paperback. My handle everywhere is Change Your Mind with Kris. Kris is spelled with a K. So I'm on TikTok. I love TikTok as well. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I think I'm on Twitter. I don't know. And krisashley.net is my website. I have online coaching courses. I have the book. I have a live free workshop that I do every few weeks. So come drop in. I think the links will be in the show notes too. But yeah, come connect with me. I'd love to see you there.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What is the free class that you're offering? And we'll make sure that everybody can sign up and participate.
Yeah, totally. It's about eliminating emotional stress, debilitating emotional stress from your life. So a lot of what we've talked about today, but we go a little deeper. So
that's perfect. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was a brilliant, brilliant conversation. I can't wait for everyone to receive the wisdom that was shared. And to our audience, thank you for being here. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Subscribe and share, because we want this wisdom to ride the wave all across the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.